And we welcome you to This is Overtime here on OSN. The Ottawa Senators, while not officially qualified, have done everything they can do, and over 99% will be in the playoffs as they defeat the New York Islanders this afternoon and punch their ticket 3-0. The Ottawa Senators over the New York Islanders. Lever Sage, Tanner Ryle with you. And Tanner, this is a great day to be an Ottawa Senators fan, because back on January the 24th, this team had less than a 9% chance to make the playoffs. And since that day, this team has been one of, if not the best team in the National Hockey League, punctuated by this 3-0 victory over an Islanders team that had to win today. And the Ottawa Senators were the better team. How you doing?
Pretty good. Yeah, it was a great hockey game. Certainly more entertaining than the Florida game the other night. A lot of punch in the game. Felt very much like a playoff atmosphere. And as you said, the Senators have pretty much punched their ticket. I don't think there's any way they're going to miss at this point, and could clinch as soon as tonight if the Detroit Red Wings lose in any fashion to your New Jersey Devils and your boy Jack Hughes.
My boy, Jack Hughes. No, this isn't about that today. This is about the Ottawa Senators not only having pretty much punched their ticket to the playoffs, but Ottawa in the number one wild card spot after the Boston Bruins lost late to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Both teams with 96 points, both teams with 43 wins, but the Ottawa Senators with 37 regulation wins to Boston's 31. And incredible that Ottawa has been able to do this over the last 2 months and a couple of weeks, like really the last 10 weeks. Minus a Olympic break. This has been just an incredible run. We talked about on the pregame show that Ottawa was one of the best teams at understanding kind of what they need to do to win hockey games. Julian's in already. Solid game of the Senators. Maybe not their best game on the puck, but defensively they were top tier. And Ben is in with the old rope-a-dope. And we talked about it, Tanner, on that show, that this team counterpunches almost as well as anybody. And we related it to soccer, that just because you don't have possession all of the time doesn't mean that you're not the better team. And look out when you're on transition. They were shorthanded. They got the Ridley Gregg goal, and they gave the New York Islanders nothing in this game. I don't care that they got outshot. They gave them nothing. The crowd was booing them on the power play. This was a defensive masterclass today against a team that had to win. And this one showed me, this team's ready for the playoffs. It's not that they're playing good hockey to get there. That was a playoff game today, and they beat a team that absolutely had to win. This team's ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, agreed. They're playing that defensive playoff style, and a lot of their weaknesses seem to be really rounding out. We didn't even mention off the top Linus Ullmark getting the shutout tonight. I don't think it was a particularly amazing performance, but he was big when they needed him to be. The penalty kill was atrocious early on in the season, but ever since they made that coaching swap to Mike Yeo, they are 6th in the NHL since making that change. And tonight they were absolutely perfect. I thought the PK was very strong, even getting that shorthanded goal by Ridley Gregg. Quite a few players whose game I really liked. Probably top of that list would be Michael Amadio, who just absolutely exudes everything we're talking about in playing that style of defensive hockey. I thought he was stellar tonight.
Now, there are some concerns. Ben brings up the fact that neck back spasms for Brady. Is that confirmed, Ben?
I don't think it's confirmed, but that was a very weird play. It wasn't really a collision, but it looks like the stick might have gotten up around his neck area.
Yeah, I don't think it was the stick. I think it was the twisting of just something awkward that happened. I can tell you that Brady Tkachuk is tough enough that if his stick came up and caught him, he would be back in the game. Like, regardless of whether like his leg kind of gave out and it was.
I did wonder about the leg initially too, but to me, I wonder if like maybe he got the butt of it in like a weird pressure point or something.
Yeah,
because there's some weird areas around your neck and ear that can really mess with like vertigo and that sort of stuff. So I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah, like maybe a stinger. Tough to predict, but
yeah,
what happened today will allow Brady Tkachuk to not play for a week if he doesn't need to, right?
Yeah, like, they could rest him until game one. I think certainly it's the right time now to start resting players. I think there's no reason for Linus Ullmark to play tomorrow. Get James Reimer in, maybe get another forward to sit and have Stephen Halliday get another game.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird, like if Detroit wins today, they're still probably going to make it. But if you ever threw Reimer in Sunday night and you lost, and then you needed a point against the Leafs somehow, some way, that would not be great. But I understand. Like the best case scenario now is that they just make it tonight, and they can, like, everyone can relax and do what they need to do. But just a clinic today by that team. Like Julian says, it became park the bus hockey at points. I don't disagree, but do you care?
It worked.
Yeah. And Ben is back in. The ability to shift Greg down to the Amadio Pinto line when you need to close out a game. Such a huge card to be able to play late in the game. You park poor Cuz to prevent a dumb penalty. Yeah. A little bit of a run there at Nick Cousins, but I don't disagree that you want your best players on at the end, and having the ability to have Ridley Gregg there in a pinch. Like he was so good today. You worried a little bit when he was on the bench and you could see him mouthing, "It's my back, it's my back." But I mean, I'm sure players are dealing with all kinds of things right now, and going into this game, like, just an incredible start too. I mean, Brady Tkachuk, and you wonder if something happened in that fight with Anders Lee again. Both of them fighting off the drop of the puck in both games that they played. And I heard them talk about it on the podcast a little bit, that it wasn't anything personal. He actually has a ton of respect for Anders Lee. The fact that they fought twice off the opening faceoff and that there's no animosity between those guys, like there's none. They're just trying to get their teams going. They both respect each other, and that's all it is. And
and it was probably a case where Lee did it for Brady a couple of weeks ago at the CTC, and Brady's doing him a solid and giving it back to him at UBS Arena tonight.
Yeah, exactly. I'm almost sure that that's what it was. And then we had lots of skirmishes early, for between these two teams. And it didn't the first period just feel like a great first period of playoff hockey? Scrums at every whistle, guys come flying in.
Yeah, especially that first one when Matt and Paolo and Schaefer started going at it, and McLean just kind of came out of nowhere and hammered Matt and Paolo.
I got all these texts from people about, "Oh my God, that's so dirty. Like, why isn't that guy kicked out of the game?" I'm like, hold on. Like, first of all, they called a penalty, and they should have called a penalty because he came in quite late. I thought the TV announcers did not do a great job at saying, well, he blindsided him and he hit him from behind. He didn't hit him from behind. And was he a little bit engaged with Schaefer? Yes, but he didn't get blindsided. But it was a penalty. And they called it a penalty, and that was good. But it felt like, okay, now we're into it. Like, everyone's getting into it. You knew the Islanders were going to kill that one off because they were defending, their kid that's the best player on their team. And it just felt like, okay, we're into it. Now, I would agree in this game, the referees didn't have a great game.
Yeah.
I would say on both sides a little bit more than I think some Sens fans. I thought the call on Ridley Gregg was pretty soft with him going to the front of the net. He just kind of fell down at the right spot, and they called the penalty. But good on him. Like, I'm not faulting him at all. I thought Jordan Spence was getting a little hosed by Braden Shen. Well, not by Shen, by the referees. The The second call was he kind of tripped him. The first call was ridiculous. But imagine twice in the box in 6 minutes on the same guy going down. And you're like, that's pretty frustrating. But the way that the penalty kill was, didn't matter. Referees just didn't have a great game tonight.
I would agree. Yeah, I think Shen especially went down a little easy a couple times, and I know Horvat was calling for a call at one point that probably wasn't there. Just the type of game that some of those guys play whenever it gets like this, trying to spark their own team and give them something. And to their credit, it worked. They got the power plays, but the Sens penalty kill was just better. And that's what it takes to win those type of games. And you got to think, like, if this was an actual playoff game, a lot of those calls wouldn't have been called anyways.
I agree.
I'd be curious to see how that would have been. But
Ben says, I really like Lassie's game tonight. Knows to be successful, he's got to move the puck quickly and just played a very simple game. Yeah, I don't disagree. You know what I really liked about his game tonight? He got absolutely filled in behind the net. I think it was in the second period. And I'm like, oh boy, like he got caught off guard. They were on him a little bit quicker than he thought. He got filled in and he got up and he made a couple of nice plays on the rest of that shift before he got off the ice. And then he didn't seem affected by it. So that's the mature part of these guys' games, is having something happen to them like that and just going, okay, well, I'm not going to change the way I'm playing. And it's really, really hard to look at this team now and go, the experience that they have gained. Yes, everyone's going to be excited. They're going to be in the playoffs. And I think a first round matchup with the Montreal Canadiens is absolutely on the table now. We talked about it last time that, yeah, maybe an outside shot. It is now on the table, because if they end up finishing first in the Atlantic and the Senators can hold on to the first wild card, that's what the matchup would be. So, but I think looking at this defense, Tanner, as we go back now a couple of months and rewind to what's happened to this team, the experience gained by Lassie Thompson, by Nick Matenpalo, by Jordan Spence, by Tyler Clevin before he got injured and out of the lineup. Incredible, really, that this team is still in the position that they are in. And all of those players are going to be better players. What a luxury for the Ottawa Senators in the future now that those players have confidence. Those players know that they can play in the National Hockey League, and they will be competing for spots. This defense score is going to get better because guys were forced to play big minutes, and they were successful in those big minutes. Almost, I don't want to say a dream scenario, because never a dream scenario that Shabbat and Sanderson get hurt, but it's a dream scenario to get through that time where Sanderson and Shabbat get hurt, and everybody else steps up and plays really well. And now the team has total confidence in a lot of those guys that are going back on that blue line. An amazing, amazing couple months for this team.
Yeah, I think it would have been completely valid for this team to collapse a little bit whenever they lost those two top guys that eat so many minutes on the back end, but they didn't. And they pushed through, and they're in a better spot for it. Like you mentioned, yeah, it just looks great for the future of this team. I imagine they still want to add on the right side, but there's not much more you could ask for from that decor, and they played great tonight. You mentioned Thompson only playing 7 minutes. I thought he was good in those 7 minutes. Sanderson logging 27 tonight. I thought he had a fantastic game, as always.
Oh, he was incredible tonight.
And yeah, like you mentioned, collision course with the Canadiens might be on the table. They would have to pass the Buffalo Sabres because Buffalo does have the tiebreaker. But yeah, that's entirely possible.
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo's got the tiebreaker for regulation wins, but if Montreal got enough points, presumably they would pass the Buffalo Sabres in that category anyway. They're only one back, and they have a game in hand. They're only one back in the regulation wins as well. So
no, they're not. Montreal has 33 regulation wins. Buffalo has 41. You're looking at
I was looking
regulation plus overtime wins.
Yeah, I apologize. Yeah, I was looking at the wrong statistical category.
So Buffalo's definitely got them on the tiebreaker. They would have to pass the Sabres.
So Montreal's got Columbus at home tonight, and for the Buffalo Sabres, they have 2 games left, and Montreal has 3. They play Columbus tonight, but Buffalo's got Chicago and Dallas left. Weird games because they don't really mean anything to those teams. Maybe home ice advantage for the Dallas Stars, but in Chicago, it's just a weird game.
Yeah, they're well and out of it. And then Dallas might even be resting players at that point too.
Yeah. But maybe Buffalo, I don't know.
Yeah.
But Buffalo will still have the ability, I guess. Like the players don't really do this, but the management would have the ability to go, okay, well, who's our better matchup? I don't think teams want anything to do with the Ottawa Senators. And that's not being a homer. You look back the last couple of months. I know Buffalo and Montreal have been very good in the last 2 months, but so has Ottawa. And those teams know it. So just because you get first in the Atlantic, if you don't pass Carolina and get first in the conference, you might get Ottawa anyway. But again, I think for the Ottawa Senators, they're not going to be focused in on that, I don't think, when they play New Jersey tomorrow.
I think they're just worried about getting in. I don't think they're too worried about their opponent. Because Boston could still very well jump over them again. You never know how the next 2 games are going to go for those 2 teams. But
yeah. No, exactly.
I do think if you're looking at an Atlantic opponent, you would probably, I think, hope for the Buffalo Sabres. That'd certainly be the one they would match up against. I wouldn't want anything to do with Montreal or Tampa.
Yeah, I would prefer Buffalo as well if you had a choice to play one of those teams. But man, oh man, this team doing everything that they can do and more, to the fact that they have jumped up and they are going to make the playoffs, to me is crazy from where they were on that January 24th. Way down at the bottom of the conference, and you just look to how many games they've really, since that January 24th date where they lost to Carolina. I'm just even looking at all of their losses, Tanner. They lost 4-3 to Carolina in a game they never should have lost if they had any goaltending. Reimer played in that game. 2-1 loss to Detroit. 5-4 loss in overtime against Edmonton, where they were up 4-2 in the third period and were up 4-3 with like a minute to go in that game. The only game that I can look at and go, you know what? They lost that game. Well, 2 of them, the Florida game and the Minnesota game, where Florida just got up and every bounce went their way in the first 16 minutes of the hockey game.
Yeah.
But incredible run that this team has gone on. And what about Linus Ullmark? I think you got to be pretty happy if you're a Sens fan that, yeah, they were better than the Islanders today, even though the shot clock didn't say so. They were better than the Islanders today. But Linus Ullmark was perfect. And you can't ask more than being perfect in a game that basically puts you in the playoffs and knocks another team out. He was good today. How about the fact that the New York Islanders 32 times either missed the net or had shots blocked today? 32. It's a big number. Every time it looked to me like they had a good chance, they missed the net. Like every time. So that's a little bit of luck when it comes to this ends, but maybe they're just trying to be too perfect. I don't know.
Yeah.
Julian says playoff experience plays a factor when you look at the series against Buffalo. They have some players with experience in Buffalo, but Ottawa's roster as a whole has that experience from last year. I would agree with that.
Yeah, I think they would match up probably the best. I don't want any part of Tampa just because of the runs that they've gone on, and Montreal just I don't like the matchup there when you look at the styles of play. But I like the matchup with Buffalo a lot. There are some experienced guys on their roster that they've kind of brought in to insulate some of their newer players, but there's no reason to believe that guys like Rasmus Dahlin, who haven't really been there before, it might be a similar situation to what we saw from the Senators last year, where it took them a few games to understand what the playoffs were all about and to start playing their proper game again.
I got a hard time. Well, I guess not. Like, I'm looking at the right column this time. Tampa's one regulation win back of the Buffalo Sabres. And they'd have to catch Buffalo, right? So they got 80 games left as well. They only have 2 more. So I guess there's an outside possibility that Tampa could still win the division with their win today against the Boston Bruins. But it would take a lot, I think, for them to win the division. But it's possible. Do you got another poll in you to be able to put up?
I can certainly do that. Yeah. Let me just pull up the YouTube chat here.
Now that the Senators are all but in, they will play one of Carolina, Buffalo, Montreal, or Tampa. Wonder if people's opinions have changed on who they would like. Maybe we should rephrase it. Who you'd like to see them play as a fan? Like, or who do they have the best chance to beat?
Sure, we'll do that one.
Would probably be the right way to phrase that. As a neutral fan, I would love to see the Montreal Canadiens and the Ottawa Senators, even though I think Montreal is a very dangerous matchup for them. I would like to see that, just kind of looking into the game and seeing the fact that I think it would be a really, really great series. I really do.
It'd be the most fun one for sure. And I've got some Habs fans in my family that I'd enjoy going back and forth with, as I did as a kid in 2013 and I believe it was 2015. Those series were a lot of fun. And we know those two teams do not like each other. But yeah, as a fan, I don't like the matchup as much. For me, I think if I had to pick, it's between Carolina and Buffalo.
So which one would it be if you had to pick right now?
I go back and forth. Yeah, I like yesterday when we were doing the show, or 2 days ago, I was saying Carolina, but now the way I'm looking at it, I kind of like the Buffalo matchup because Carolina is so experienced, whereas Buffalo's coming into their first playoff series in however long. So yeah, I'm probably going with that, but I do like the pathway through the Metro if they were to try and make a deep run. When you look at the fact that you'd be matching up, if you can get past Carolina, which would not be easy, you'd be facing one of Pittsburgh or Philadelphia, who I'd much rather see than one of the other 3 Atlantic teams in the second round.
So I understand, but now you got to pick. You got to pick one of, do you want to face a little bit tougher team in Carolina because of the path, or do you want to face the Buffalo Sabres, in your opinion, because of their lack of playoff experience? It's got to be one of those two choices.
I'm really going back and forth. I'll stick with my take from the other night and say Carolina. I think I'd like that path better.
Okay. I don't. I do like I understand the theory behind the path, but again, one of Pittsburgh and Philadelphia are going to be playing pretty well to win that series. Well, I think it's an easier matchup facing one of those teams. I think Carolina is going to be very difficult. They've proven you can talk all you want about what they do in conference finals, but then start telling people what they do in the first round and the second round of the playoffs. They beat up teams, and they've proven that they beat up teams in the first round. I would not think going up against an experienced Carolina Hurricanes team that's got playoff experience, as some veteran leadership, and are a puck possession team that do funnel a lot of pucks towards the net. I would take my chances with the Buffalo Sabres. That would be my first pick. They're a good team. Like all of these teams that make the playoffs, they're good teams.
Yep.
So it's not like you're picking somebody like somebody that, Ottawa's, it's going to be a cakewalk. It's not. But I think they would have the best chance to go up against Buffalo, be some nice storylines with Josh Norris going up against Dylan Cousins in the playoffs, and that would be fun. But from the experience factor, the Buffalo Sabres have had a hell of a year, but it feels like a lot of these teams in their first time, when they have a great year and they haven't had much adversity at all, that when presumably they would get some adversity in the playoffs, how do they handle it? They simply haven't had any. Like, this is a formula to me in Buffalo that a great regular season, they finally get rid of all of the demons, but what adversity have the Buffalo Sabres had this year? Like none to me. And when you couple that with going into the playoffs and they haven't been there before either, I would like Ottawa's chances. I would pick Buffalo 1. I'd probably pick Tampa 2 if I could. I just think both Carolina and Montreal are really, really good. Like most people, the matchup against Montreal, the cities would be engaged. It would be great. But I just don't like the matchup against the Montreal Canadiens.
I'd much rather see Montreal in the second round or even a conference final if they do go through the Metro. Just imagine an Ottawa-Montreal conference final. That would be insane.
No, I couldn't. To get to the Stanley Cup final, that would be incredible.
Julian says,
path is easier in the Metro, but more valuable experience comes from battling those Atlantic teams. Yeah, I mean, you're going to get valuable playoff experience regardless. I don't know that it matters against the Atlantic teams necessarily. It's way more of a who is your best matchup. But this is where I go back to the discussions that we've had before. Like, this is a fruitless discussion right now, I understand. But I would love teams to be able to pick their opponents.
Yeah.
Because you kind of have this Pittsburgh, Flyers, Islanders, Columbus, whoever is going to be third in the Metro is just going to be matched up against Pittsburgh instead of I'm sure that whoever had first pick would pick that team regardless of who it is. To me, Philly, Columbus, the Islanders, if you're finishing first, you would pick that team to play first round. You wouldn't want Ottawa and you wouldn't want Boston.
No.
And that's what that's why I don't like this setup, because the winners of the conference, of the divisions, both the Atlantic and the Metro, are going to get two of the very hottest teams in the NHL in Boston and Ottawa over the last 2 months. That's not a reward. It's not a reward at all.
Definitely not. Julian bringing up the 1 versus 8 format as well. That could sort of be interesting. It does change the matchups a little bit. I'm just looking at it right now. So it would be Carolina, Philly, Buffalo, Boston, Montreal, Ottawa, Tampa, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and things can change in a hurry here, right? With Montreal and Tampa with 104 points, Buffalo only with 106, and they've played one more game than Montreal. So yeah, things can turn around. But yeah, I agree. That would be much better for Carolina to get, a Philadelphia Flyers team who, whether it's the Flyers or the Islanders or Columbus, it's a much better matchup for them. All three of those teams are much worse than Ottawa and Boston. And I think we saw that today with the Islanders. The Islanders at their best got no goals at home in a game they absolutely had to win. I wonder what the mindset is as we get within an hour here, Tanner, of the Detroit Red Wings hitting the ice. I would say deflated would be what they would be going through, because for Detroit, they would have to hope that Ottawa lost their last 2 games, and then Detroit would have to run the table. That is the only way that Detroit can get in. So Detroit would have to win all 3 games and hope that Ottawa loses both to New Jersey and to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I would think they would be quite deflated going into that game, knowing that that was the case. But if they're able to win today against New Jersey, they would play again against Tampa. New Jersey having the back-to-backs, and they would only hope that they beat New Jersey today, and then hope, like anything, that New Jersey could beat Ottawa tomorrow to keep their hopes alive.
Right.
But they played themselves into this, Detroit did.
I mean, yeah, they had a 12-point lead on the Senators. They were top of the Atlantic Division in January. They fell out, and then they have no one to blame but themselves. You can bring up injuries and whatnot, but I even saw some stats that just Dylan Larkin's analytics since the Olympics just nosedive down across the board.
Really?
So, not sure what happened there, but we do have a bit of an we do have a bit of an update on Brady. So the Athletics' Julian McKenzie actually at EBS Arena tonight. So we have some media on the road. It's kind of nice. Travis Green says Brady Tkachuk, quote, wasn't feeling well. No other concrete update beyond that. Not sure if he saw what happened to him either that led to the injury. I asked if he saw what happened and he said no.
Yeah, that's not an update.
Yeah.
Well, that's as much as you're going to get, but that's not really an update, is it?
More of a non-update. I do wonder if we'll end up seeing Brady tomorrow or not.
I would, yeah. If he's not close to 100%, you will not see him. It'd be a great sign if you saw him, because then you would go, okay, there's nothing to worry about whatsoever. Because if there was anything nagging at all, you would not play him in that game.
Agreed. Yeah, we mentioned Allmark earlier. Just seen another post here online from our buddy Callum Fraser of Post Media. Linus Allmark, since that game in Florida, 6 straight starts, a 5-1-0 record, a .927 save percentage, and now a shutout as well.
Yeah, probably not getting the credit. The team has played very, very well in front of him, where he hasn't had to be the star, but he still got to stop the puck when it comes to him.
Yep.
And he did that. Well, if New Jersey can beat Detroit today, you will not see Brady. You will not see Linus Ullmark. You will not see a whole bunch of people come tomorrow night.
Yeah, I got a feeling that depending on how that game goes tonight, if Detroit ends up losing, we might see a bit of a late night post from the Sens media account saying there's a few call-ups on the way to play in New Jersey tomorrow.
Yeah, not that far to get there.
No, I do believe I believe the B Sens are in Laval tonight.
I saw that Kaliev goal in overtime. He looked pretty quick.
Yeah, he's going to be an interesting one, I feel like, in this offseason, because let's not forget, he isn't signed through next year, but he is a restricted free agent. So I'm curious what the Sens play will be with him.
What an incredible season here for the Ottawa Senators in the last couple of months, and have to be feeling, getting guys back. I don't think I'm too worried about Brady Tkachuk. I don't think that's a big worry for me.
I would agree. It just seems like a weird like a stinger of some sort.
Oh, definitely a weird way to react to whatever happened. But for Brady Tkachuk, he would play no matter what, right? Like this is a guy you'd have to cut off his leg to not play in the playoffs, and he can get a week rest. You just know he's going to be out there. That's all. That's what I'm saying where I'm not worried about him. And then everybody else, you can basically give them the week here. So if Detroit wins tonight, are you still resting guys tomorrow?
Probably not, aside from obviously Brady. Like I think you could take Brady out and probably put Stephen Halliday in lower in the lineup. But I wouldn't be doing like what we saw with the Carolina Hurricanes the other night where they were resting 6 to 8 of their regulars. I don't think you would do that unless you clinch. You just can't afford to.
Yeah, because if you ever lost and then Detroit wins on Monday, then you're going into Wednesday needing a point.
And Detroit would have to win another game as well. Detroit has to pretty much go perfect.
Well, Detroit has to go perfect. Like there's no other choice. They have to. But they play at the same time as you on Wednesday night. That's all I'm saying. So to go into that game on Wednesday to be home and cooled, you need Detroit to not get all 4 points before that, or you need to get a point tomorrow night. So if Detroit wins today, if you pull a bunch of guys out of the lineup and you lose to New Jersey, you are risking having to put those guys back in on Wednesday when it's probably one of those scenarios that even if you don't want to and guys are a little bit banged up, you probably play them in New Jersey to just make sure you get your point, and you still are going to have a week off, right? Like the earliest they would ever play in the playoffs is Saturday, and I think it's not going to be until after that.
Yeah.
Whether it's
like
Monday
if there's a guy that needs the rest, I'd do it tomorrow. But I mean, a lot of it's going to depend also. Like if New Jersey beats the Red Wings tonight, it doesn't matter. You can rest whoever you need to tomorrow. But
exactly.
In the event that they win, I would think you probably play Reimer, and then maybe there's one guy, maybe it's Brady, that isn't feeling great, and you plug Stephen Halliday in. But other than that, no, you're not going crazy with the rest. It's really going to depend. I guess we'll know probably by 7:30, 8 o'clock tonight.
Yeah, I would agree. The way that Brady was, you probably don't play him tomorrow. And then you just hope that it goes your way, that you don't have to play him again against the Leafs.
Yeah.
But you probably don't play him tomorrow. Some of the ice times, you could see how important this was. You mentioned Jake Sanderson, 27-36. Thomas Chabot, 24-11. Artem Zub, 24-45. Tim Stützle played over exactly 21 minutes tonight. And how about Ridley Gregg? 22-36 for Ridley Gregg. I was going to say he was noticeable, but I guess so. He was on the ice for more than a third of the entire time. I would have to look and see whether that's a season high for Ridley Gregg. It feels like it might be at 22 and a half minutes.
I thought he was quite noticeable tonight too. I think he had a fantastic game.
Shane Pinto, just a couple of seconds shy of 20 minutes as well. So they really leaned on the vets and the guys that were going in this game.
Yeah, Amadio almost at 19 minutes there as well. You know, he saw a lot of ice with Pinto, of course, but really liked his game.
He's going to get, as you said, he's going to get paid, Michael Amadio. This is a guy.
They still have him for another season.
Yeah, I know. But what I'm saying is I think people are going to look at him through this season and what he probably does in the playoffs. And almost regardless, it's hard to think that he'd have a terrible year next year. But this season will get him paid when the contract comes up in a year because of how well he has done in many different situations. And I just have a feeling that will continue in the playoffs
Yeah.
as well.
And I think if you're the Sens,
I'm interested in
you're like immediately probably trying to extend him on July the 1st because he's just been such a good fit here. Like he's crawling up there, I think, for all-time signings for free agents by the Sens. Certainly for Steos, I think it's probably his best signing that he's ever made.
I was just going to say, let's trying to think of all the big ones. Because all-time signings in Senators history, there aren't like crazy amounts. Clark MacArthur, Sergei Gonchar.
Giroux, Gonchar, and MacArthur would probably be the big ones.
Dominic Hasek, until he stopped playing for the team.
But when it comes to Steos, I think he's got to be number one. I don't see anybody else really coming that close. But still, I think you go to him on July the 1st, and he's probably a guy you want to keep around, just with the chemistry that he seems to have with just about everybody on this team. Seems everybody wants Michael Amadio on their line. Might cost you, I mean, it's certainly going to cost you a little bit more than the, around 2.5, 2.6 million he's making now, but he's a guy you want to probably keep as a third liner.
I just read an article by Brandon Mackey, of all people, who was the PR guy for the Red Blacks and now has moved on to a political job in Toronto. You know, he's got at number one as all-time free agent signings.
For the Senators or just overall?
Yeah, for the Sens.
Who?
Todd White.
All right.
Which I don't, I mean, this was written a couple of years ago, but from 2000 to 2004, he was pretty good. He was a mainstay of those teams that the one goal away from the Stanley Cup in 2003 and great regular seasons before losing to the Leafs in most of his time there. But that's an interesting one. But right now, Michael Amadio, that line is, to me, that's the sort of the unsung hero or the workhorse of the group. Like that line is kind of the identity of the Ottawa Senators.
And it has been dating back to like mid last season that Travis Green was really riding. At the time, it was Greg Pinto, Amadio. We've seen Giroux and Cousins kind of rotate in there a little bit more, but they're going to see a lot of ice in the playoffs. I'm almost certain of that. They're probably going to be matching up with whatever team's first line. Just Green has so much trust in them.
Why not, right? We've just done such a good job all year long, and Ridley Gregg's looked better and better as this season has gone along, whether that was an injury that he just couldn't get over or bad play or both. He's been tremendous. And Pinto and Amadio have been great all year long. So, like I said, I think it's the identity of the team, that line. And a lot of the other forwards have kind of bought into the way that they play and not the other way around. So, the LA Kings lead early against the Edmonton Oilers. 1-0. And that's a game that Winnipeg will be looking in on. The bread man has scored for the Kings in their push to make the playoffs. They sit in that second and last wild card spot.
Yep. They got the Capitals up 2-1 over the Pittsburgh Penguins. A little unfortunate. Penguins seem to be resting a lot of their players tonight, including Sidney Crosby. So, in what would have been the 100th meeting of Crosby and Ovechkin, he's not playing.
Well, he's been hurt.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and they are gearing up for the playoffs, and they know it's going to be a nasty series against, well, whoever. It might be Philadelphia, it might be the Islanders, it might be Columbus, but depending on how Philly does tonight, that I mean, Philly's got the inside track, but by no means are they guaranteed to get there. And what these teams better be thinking, obviously, now is that the wild cards they're gone.
Yep.
That nobody, like the third place in the Metro is the only position left for these teams. And for Columbus and the Islanders and Philly, there's one spot. And that's the spot.
Unless Ottawa or Boston were to lose the rest of their games. That's the only way that another team's getting into that Atlantic spot. So, yeah, but the Penguins are resting a lot of people tonight. So, no Crosby, Kindle, Malkin, Rust, Witherspoon, Carlson, Letang, or Dewar.
I'm just looking. So, I don't think... no, none of those teams can even catch Ottawa or Boston at all. The Islanders or Columbus or Washington. I mean, obviously Philly can, but they're the only team that can. And they would have to win out.
Detroit as well.
Yeah, I just meant in the Metro, I guess.
Gotcha.
The teams vying for that spot in the Metro. But yes, Detroit. Well, to say it's a must-win for Detroit when they take the ice in half an hour, like if they lose, it's over.
Yeah. Even if they only get 1 point, they can't catch the Sens. They can still technically catch the Bruins, but I mean, yeah, it's over if they don't get a win. I think it's already over for them, just being 5 points back.
Yeah,
I don't think you can't expect Ottawa and Boston to not win one of their next 2 games, or at the very least to get a point.
Yeah, Boston's lost 5 in a row, which is weird. They're playing so well. They've lost a couple of games in overtime. They've lost 5 in a row, but so Boston's got Columbus tomorrow. And for Columbus, that could mean, well, not nothing. I guess if they still lose today, it would still mean something, but their chances would be very slim. And then New Jersey, it just seems to be everybody's opponent lately. Boston's got them on Tuesday in their last game. So you're right. Like the chances of both Ottawa and Boston losing both of their games and then the other teams winning all 3 of those games are just, very, very slim. Julian, and I was going to bring this up, random stat showing it there that Amadio was second in the league in puck battles won.
Yeah,
was it Kaprizov, number 1?
Yeah, it was Kirill Kaprizov. That was coming from Sportlogiq. Put it out today, and yeah, it was mentioned on the broadcast.
If anything is going to win you your negotiation when you do talk money, especially if they start talking to him on July 1st, I'm just gonna slide this across the table. Every time I'm on the ice and there's a puck battle, yeah, I win it.
Yeah. I think he's a guy they're going to want to keep around if they can. I think they'll do everything they can. Just such a good fit with Pinto and Greg.
Yeah, it's weird. We don't really hear from Amadio a lot, right?
When he just seems to be a very quiet, mellow kind of guy from everything that I've seen and heard from him.
Yeah. But we don't really hear like in the media very much from him. It's like, do we know that he likes it here? I don't know. Like, I'm sure he likes being involved in this playoff run, and
yeah,
but who knows? Like, I have no idea whether he likes it here or not.
I mean, he did choose to come here as a UFA after having already been here for a little bit. He had like a small cup of tea after playing with the Leafs. So there's probably something there. Yeah. He does seem pretty tight with Pinto and Greg. So I don't know. I think they should do everything in their power to keep him around. He seems like a really big piece of this team.
Couldn't agree more. Well, the Ottawa Senators, Tanner, are almost assuredly in the playoffs after a 3-0 victory over the New York Islanders. Yes, they're in action tomorrow night against New Jersey, but to be able to not make the playoffs, literally every single thing would have to go wrong. All the other teams have to win out, and then Ottawa would have to lose both of their games. And it just, you can't see that happening whatsoever. I hope for their sake, because they're so close, that they just find out tonight and can rest guys tomorrow. Nothing would happen to some of the important guys. You have a game against the Leafs that I know Sens fans would be very, very happy to not have mean anything. And then, I mean, we're still awaiting exactly when the playoffs are going to start, but the Eastern Conference finishes on Wednesday. The Western Conference finishes on Thursday. So would they be starting Saturday? Would they be starting Sunday? I don't know, but we're a week away and the Sens are going to be in the playoffs, which is pretty cool, I think, for a lot of Sens fans, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, Tanner, we'll see you when you visit the Palatial Estates here tomorrow, and we'll do a quick something tomorrow, regardless of whether the Sens are officially in or they still need a point against the Devils to be able to punch their ticket. Julian says one of my buddies at school mentioned the 18th, which I don't know if that was set in stone.
Seems reasonable, I think. That'd be a week from today.
He works the game day cameras at the CTC.
Well, yeah, they'd be starting on the road.
Well, that's it. And that's where it comes down to. Sometimes people think that the building availabilities are just free and clear all the time. They're not. So, like, do they play at the Bell Center? Do they play in Buffalo? Do they play in Carolina? Well, those building availabilities are going to be different. And then you go with TV schedules. I can tell you that if Ottawa is facing Montreal, the national broadcaster that's broadcasting Toronto, Florida tonight, instead of some of the other important games, are going to tell everyone that that's the series that we're doing, and they would have some precedent on when those would be as well. And as much as we all love a good Saturday night game, I can tell you that ratings for our early Sunday night games are the best night of the year for ratings, because usually, regardless of what people are doing on the weekends, they're back home by Sunday at 7 and they're not in bed yet. It's Sunday night early is the best television ratings time. How much influence will CBC have on the NHL as far as that series in particular? If it is Ottawa, Montreal, they'll probably have more than they would in other spots.
For sure.
So this is all kind of a negotiation between the NHL, building availabilities, NBC, CBC, all of these people that have votes at the table for when things are going to be. So when exactly it's going to start, we don't know, but it's going to start. Either it's Saturday, it's Sunday afternoon, or Sunday night. I have a hard time believing it would be past Sunday night next weekend, which would be very difficult for you because you would miss I Show Speed and the Vision against the Usos in LA Knight. That would kick off Sunday night on WrestleMania night 2.
What?
Pat McAfee.
What? There's something else next week? I don't think there's anything else next weekend, Lee.
Well, they're only on Saturday because Pat McAfee said on SmackDown that Sunday's ass. And you shouldn't buy a ticket to Sunday. So here's
please don't make me talk about this.
I know.
Save it for Zach.
Well, that's good. We will.
I hear AW's on tomorrow night, though. That's going to be a good show.
There you go.
There we go. Kenny Omega and MJF. That sounds like a WrestleMania to me.
There's some unbelievable. The card is stacked again. Moxley and Ospreay. The Bucks against Okada and Takeshita.
No lame ass YouTubers or celebrities needed.
Nope.
Although, hey, if they want to call us, I mean, we're technically YouTubers now. We're on this platform. They want to call us for a tag team match. Maybe, we're easy to find, Tony Khan.
And on that note, we will say goodbye, but a very successful afternoon for the Ottawa Senators. 3-0. They shut out the New York Islanders and pretty much set their playoff march here a week before the playoffs start. They're going to get there, and it's been a very, very, very impressive run for the Senators, who have won 5 of their last 6 games and just didn't have to rely on anybody else. After all the scoreboard watching, they didn't have to rely on anybody else. They just got there themselves. And good for them. We'll see you tomorrow night, Tanner.
Yep, sounds good. In studio. Looking forward to it.
Yep. Yeah, we've got a good crew, I think, coming over here for tomorrow night. We've got a big hockey game, a big wrestling pay-per-view, and put some final touches on the run for OSN towards the playoffs. So thank you, Julian. Thank you, Ben. Thank you for everybody listening. We appreciate it, and we will be back tomorrow with a little bit on the Sens and Devils before the game. Again, 3-0 the final. The Ottawa Senators over the New York Islanders. This is Overtime on OSN.